Welcome to North Georgia Business Radio. I'm your host, Bo Henderson. Today I'm joined with co-host Amanda Pirch. How you doing, Amanda?
Good afternoon, Bo.
So, Amanda, let's talk for just a second about this studio, North Georgia Business Radio. This is the place committed to highlighting our local businesses and the people behind those.
And we have some great people here in studio today.
We have some great guests. Well, let's jump right into it.
Let's do it.
Okay, first guest, Mr. Samuel Howe. Now, Samuel works with Alliance Group, and they specialize, it's a life insurance company, and they specialize in something called living benefits. So, Samuel, National Marketing Director, the first question I really want to jump into before we get into what you do, how you do it, and what's unique is, how did you get there? How did you get to being a national marketing director of an insurance company? I know it might not have been something at 6 years old. You said that's my goal.
Absolutely.
So tell us the story.
Absolutely not. It was something that I couldn't possibly have planned. I actually started off. I went to school at Georgia College down in Milledgeville, and I studied TV and broadcasting. And when I came out of college, I actually worked at CNN for 7 years as a producer there. And my buddy, Lee Duncan, from way back in high school, is actually the chief marketing officer of Alliance Group. And he ended up recruiting me away from CNN. They wanted to bring video marketing into the fold as you know, something that they wanted to do with their marketing efforts. He knew that I had kind of that background, so he brought me in. And when I came in, I thought I was just going to stick to marketing. When I found out more about the products and exactly what we do at Alliance Group with the new kind of life insurance, living benefits life insurance, I kind of fell in love with it. And now, along with the marketing, I wear a lot of hats at Alliance Group, and it's been a really enriching and awesome kind of unexpected turn in my career. And now I've been doing it for almost 8 years, which is absolutely crazy to think about. So really having a good time.
Almost a decade.
Almost a decade, which is very hard to believe, yes.
Well, that was a great story you shared with us, Samuel. I wanted to ask about one thing that you mentioned. You specified living benefits. Maybe you could elaborate a little bit.
Yes. So as we kind of, I never saw myself being in the life insurance industry ever. And I would not be in the life insurance industry today if it wasn't for living benefits. So living benefits is a new kind of life insurance that Alliance Group really specializes in. Most people kind of understand life insurance as something that you purchase to protect against the possibility that the worst thing could happen, that we pass away, and you buy life insurance for that death benefit so that if your family is left in that position where your paycheck's not coming in anymore, they'll be taken care of financially. Living benefits is really an evolution in that product that's been around for hundreds of years, where it was just the death benefit that you were purchasing. Now, living benefits brings the ability to protect yourself with that death benefit in the exact same way that it's always worked for years. But it adds the ability for you to get your hands on that death benefit while you're still alive if you suffer a major illness, cancer, heart attack, stroke, major organ transplant, blindness, paralysis, ALS. There's a whole list of things that are covered. Any critical, chronic, or terminal illness or critical injury, you'd be able to get that money on, in your hands while you're still alive, which, as we're seeing, with what's going on with medical bankruptcy in this country today, half of all bankruptcies these days are medical bankruptcies. Mm-hmm. Unexpected illnesses happen. People think that they're prepared, and they're not financially. They find that out the hard way. They spin really quickly into medical bankruptcy. Half of those bankruptcies every year are medical bankruptcies. 68% of them are people that had health insurance, and it did not save them. They went bankrupt anyway. So living benefits is a solution, a modern solution for a modern problem, and it really helps protect American families against not just the possibility they might die, but the very more real possibility that they could get sick. It happens all the time. It happens to people that are unhealthy. It happens to people that are healthy. And it's something that every single American family needs. We feel very strongly about that at Alliance Group.
Well, I think it's very eye-opening and shocking sometimes when you share stats that show that sometimes the most catastrophic event's not dying. It seems like that's the end-all be-all. It's actually surviving an illness. And that's the big thing living benefits does. But you brought it up, Samuel. There's a perception that life insurance is to protect me when I die, protect my family. Mm-hmm. How do you go about re-educating the public? Because it's a new twist on an old product.
Well, exactly. It's absolutely a new twist on an old product. And what we kind of have to do, and what we train the agents that are working with us to do when they're talking to clients about this new kind of life insurance, is you really have to put the clients in that you have to make them go there in their mind and make them get in that mindset. Now, I know that none of us sitting here today think that we're going to get cancer. Hopefully, we're not going to get cancer. Hopefully, we're not going to have a heart attack tomorrow or a stroke or something like that. But just try to imagine for a second that that did happen. Really put yourself in that situation mentally. And now think about what's happening. I have a heart attack tomorrow. Guess what? I'm not going to work tomorrow. Or tomorrow, the next day, for the next few weeks, maybe months. If I have a major cancer diagnosis, I might be out of work getting treatment for up to a year, maybe even more than that. People think about, well, how expensive will that be as far as the cancer treatment, for example? Well, health insurance might help with some of it. If you've ever had any real-life experience with a friend or family member that's gone through something like that, you know that health insurance might help with some of those costs, but for the best treatments, it doesn't cover those treatments. They're still experimental. They cost hundreds of thousands of dollars. That's one side of it. That's just the expense side of it. What a lot of people don't think about, and we have to remind them, is you're also not going to work. So unless you have a really great short-term or long-term disability plan, which some people do, that's great for them. But if you don't have one of those, your income's going to zero, right? Immediately, like that. Even if you do have one, the very best of those plans maybe covers 65% of your normal income. So you've got, on one end, you got your expenses going through the roof because of this new illness. On the other end, you've got your income going through the floor. That's how medical bankruptcy happens. It is a huge problem. It's an epidemic. People don't realize it's happening until it's already too late. Living benefits is the way to safeguard against that trap that so many Americans are falling into every day. We're very, very passionate about it. If you can tell, I believe very, very strongly in these products. It's why I love my job, and it's why I love talking about it. We got to kind of get the word out there.
Well, in doing a lot of retirement planning in my business, one of the things I run into is we talk a lot about long-term care. We talk about critical illness. We talk about a lot of that planning, and it can be cost prohibitive.
Mm-hmm.
What I love about the products that Alliance Group specializes in is it's going to spring into effect based on what life throws at us. It's not necessarily we're guessing, or if we try to cover everything with separate policies, most people just can't afford to do that.
Exactly.
So we're going to have a critical illness. We're going to have a long-term care event, or we're going to die. I promise you one of those things will happen.
Mm-hmm.
And if that's something we need, this is a tool that will spring into effect. And we're not guessing what I'm not going to have this coverage because I don't think this will happen. Guess what's going to end up probably happening?
Right. Absolutely. It kind of checks all those boxes. And as you mentioned, Bo, so truthfully is that there are, cancer policies out there that only cover cancer. There's long-term care policies that can be very expensive and increasingly expensive and increasingly hard to qualify for. And you have to you're kind of playing roulette trying to guess which one of these things is going to happen. Maybe I should buy them all. Maybe I shouldn't buy any of them and just kind of cross my fingers. The thing about living benefits life insurance that's amazing is you need life insurance anyway. I mean, hopefully any responsible adult that has children or a spouse that relies on their income, they know that they need life insurance, right? They know that in case they pass away, they need to have something there as a plan for their family to continue on financially. Hopefully everybody knows that. The beautiful thing about living benefits is that it comes with the life insurance policy and it doesn't cost any extra. This is not something that you have to go out and purchase or spend more money to have these extra features. It's a new kind of life insurance that is going to cover you just like the old kind of life insurance did, but it's going to give you access to money when you need it most if you get sick. It's going to check all those boxes. And, it's something that the only reason somebody would not have living benefits life insurance as part of their life insurance coverage is the only reason is that they don't know it exists and that nobody's reached out to them and told them about it. What we find with our clients is once we've educated them that this is not, there's no tricks, there's no fine print, there's no, decrease in the usefulness of your policy by adding these living benefit riders. These living benefit riders don't cost anything. It's very simple. It is a modernized, evolved product that is better than the old kind. And if you've got the old kind, you need the new kind. And if you don't have the old kind, what are you doing? You need some life insurance, and you should get the new kind.
And I found, Samuel, that when you talk about a financial strategy, financial planning at any age, this is a nice tool it's really a good foundation to put under pretty much anything you're doing. Because a lot of times I find it's sexier and exciting to work on some investments and high-risk things, but we got to have a foundation under that. And this is a foundation that could save all those assets and other things if you're really looking at it that way.
Absolutely. If you look at trying to build wealth, the very first step is the foundation. The foundation is protection. Because if you're not properly protected, you can stack up these cards as high as you want, and you can be investing and you can be getting great returns on your investment. But if you're not protected properly at the bottom, if cancer happens, guess what? That pyramid, that house of cards that you've built is coming down. You have to protect the foundation first. Make sure that you're protected, and that this thing that you're trying to build and working so hard to build with your wealth, with your assets, that it's not built, you haven't built your sandcastle close to the ocean. You got to make sure that it's protected and that a big wave can't come knock it down. So absolutely, you're right. Living benefits protection, I think, is the perfect foundation for any financial plan for anything that you're trying to build for the future for you and your family.
Well, what our listeners can't see is the enthusiasm and the passion that you delivered with the message.
Totally
that you
red in the
just
face
shared.
and pouring sweat right now.
So we
I'm
can
so
see,
enthusiastic.
yes, it's something that ignites you. And I understand that Alliance Group is very passionate as a whole.
Absolutely.
So it sounds like you guys offer a beautiful little bundle for anybody that's looking for that protection.
Yes, and I'm talking about just your average Joe or Jane that's needs life insurance, a term life insurance policy. If you have a term life insurance policy, chances are we can replace it with a living benefits life insurance policy that's going to cost you the same or maybe even less. It's not rare at all that somebody comes to me and says, "Hey, I've got a term policy through X company. It doesn't have living benefits. How do I get these new living benefits riders?" We run the quotes out, and I end up saying, "Look, you're paying $50 a month now. My plan will replace it and cost $45 a month. So I just put money in your pocket, and now you're protected against
And
all this
extra,
stuff."
yeah.
Right.
You get all the extra.
It isn't just private citizens. It's actually business owners. This is an amazing tool for business owners. And you have to, it's a little bit different of a conversation, but business owners are thinking the sort of same thing. They're, I need to be protected in case I die. My business partner is going to be left high and dry. How do we get a plan for this? But what they don't think about is, yes, you would be in trouble instantly if your partner died, your business partner. What if he got sick? What if he had a heart attack? You're going to have the same problems. Mm-hmm. You're going to have him out of work, maybe drawing money from the company to try to pay for his care. There's going to be an absence of him or her around the office, and there's going to be a problem there. Living benefits is an excellent solution for business owners as well as private citizens, and pretty much for anybody. Our whole thing is if you're living, if you're breathing, you need living benefits. You just don't know what's going to happen. Doesn't matter if you're unhealthy, healthy. If you're healthy, it just means it's going to be a lot cheaper for you to do it, and you're still going to be protected, which everyone needs to be.
Mm-hmm.
Well, let's talk just a second about this idea of it won't happen to me. I think it's human nature. I think we probably all at this table think that. But do you have any stats on how likelihood something like a critical illness, or just approximations? I mean, I know it's high. I know it's very high, a critical illness, a chronic illness, and it's 100% death, by the way.
Oh, yeah, 100% death. Everyone is. We're all eventually going to die. Death and taxes, right? But there's a ton of stats out there about critical illness. One thing I can tell you, I told you that I started here almost 8 years ago, right, at Alliance Group. When I first started, the stat was, if you're a male, you have a 1 in 2 chance of getting cancer at some point in your life. That's insane. The stat at the same time was 1 in 3 if you were a female. And what I can tell you, so that was 8 years ago. That stat has been updated, and the news is not good, ladies. I'm very sorry. You're now 1 in 2, just like men. There is a 1 in 2 chance that we're going to develop cancer at some point in our lifetime. Now, of course, that includes people who are getting it when they're 90 years old, right? But it's still a very jarring stat. There's a 50% chance. We look in this room right now. We've got 7 people in here. 3.5 of us are going to get cancer at some point. We have to prepare for these sorts of eventualities. We don't like to think about it, but the experience that I've had is with death. People really don't think that that's going to happen to them. So the life insurance conversation can be tough. But the living benefits conversation, it's actually, I find that when I'm talking to people, they know that this could happen to them because they've seen it happen. I guarantee we could go around this table right now and we all could tell a story about someone that that was totally healthy, that was like the picture of health, and boom, they got breast cancer, or they had a cardiac arrest and collapsed during a 10K they were running. This stuff just happens, and it's not fun to talk about or think about, but that's no excuse for not preparing yourself for it and being responsible and making sure that your family, that your business, that yourself and your finances are protected.
And from a planning perspective, one of the things I challenge listeners to think about with this is let's model these things. There's a very high likelihood these things are going to happen. Let's model for peace of mind that if this happens, what's the contingency that me and my family would be okay? And then if you're protected, there's a lot of peace of mind, and then there's a lot less surprises down the road, because when we get there and there's surprises, you have a lot less options, and a lot of times that's where you see a lot of panic and a lot of fear.
Yep.
So I think from a planning perspective, don't be afraid. I do that with retirement planning. A lot of people don't realize that the death of a first spouse, the overall household income drops by a third. That's not good or bad. It's what it is. But what do we have in place to account for that? Same thing.
Absolutely.
Right? Let's model for these things that are going to happen. Well, so I know another thing that comes up is people really think about this stuff. You brought it up when it hits close to home. It might be a parent living in the house, might be a friend, it could be a spouse. Was there a story close to you that gave you all this passion about this, or something that really just took it over the top for you?
My favorite part of my job is talking about living benefits, but we've got. I have a really unique opportunity as the marketing director at Alliance Group. We actually go around and create testimonial videos. These are real life clients from our real local agents here in the North Georgia area. In many cases, these are actual clients of actual agents who got the living benefits in place, bought the policy, they were healthy, and then something happened, and they are able to get $150, $250, $450, $700,000 tax-free in their hands while they're in the hospital after suffering an unexpected illness. And we fly all over the country. We go into their homes. We set up our cameras and our lights, and I sit across from them, and I ask them about it. And I say, what happened? And they tell their story. And the gratitude that pours off of these people as they recount this horrible thing. I'll actually give you an example. A month ago, and we just released the finished video literally this past weekend. A month ago, we went down to Boca Raton, Florida, and we filmed a client who's actually an agent. So this is an agent who had done a testimonial video with us before on a client of his, and we have that video, and it's been done 2 years ago. Now that very same agent, who is 34 years old, the picture of health, he's the life of the party, 6 foot, 165 pounds, works out all the time. Nothing wrong with this guy. He actually sells living benefits for a living and helps clients with that. He himself woke up the morning of his son's 6th birthday party, rolled over in bed. He said, "Babe, my chest hurts," and collapsed out of bed. He had a cardiac arrest. It wasn't a heart attack. It was his heart just stopped. It was like an electric signal thing. The doctors still don't know why it happened. But his heart has stopped. He is unconscious on the floor. Luckily, he had a friend sleeping downstairs because they were coming to his kid's party the next day, who was a diver. And the diver ran upstairs and did CPR on him, saved his life. The paramedics happened to be driving past his condo, were there in 4 minutes from the time that it happened, which is insane. Wow. All of these things lined up, and he had this living benefits policy. The guy got $250,000 in his hands, and to hear him tell his story, it really underlines, two things. First of all, of course, the power of living benefits and the fact that he was able to take all the time off work he needed without worrying about rushing back to work, get whatever treatments he wanted without worrying about whether health insurance was going to pay for it, have the dignity to do whatever he wanted with his treatment and recover the way he wanted and take all the time off he needed. But also the fact that this can happen to anybody. I mean, this is a totally healthy guy whose heart just stopped, and the doctors still don't know why that happened. And they'll never know. They gave him a nickname in the hospital, Miracle Boy. We don't know why you're alive, dude. There's a lot of things that had to line up to keep you alive, but you're here, and now he's got $250,000. He actually, in his case, a lot of times people end up spending that on treatment, and it kind of that money kind of gets eaten up when they're out of work and their income's being replaced by it. But in his case, he was out of work, away from the office for 5 weeks or so, kind of recovering at home, and hit that $250,000. A lot of it is going into investments, and it's going to be he's going to be building his financial future upon it. So it's a fantastic story. It's just one of many. We see them all the time. So to answer your question, my favorite part of my job, and the thing that really gives me so much passion, is I'm blessed to have the opportunity to sit. He's probably the 15th client that we've traveled to and sat and gotten their story. Every single one is just so grateful that they found out about living benefits, that agent educated them about it, that they put it in place. They have the wisdom to do that, because it literally, in many cases, end up saving their homes, their financial futures, their retirements, and really their dignity, right?
Well, you hit something, and let me make sure we're clear here. So you said that benefit didn't have to go to pay the medical bills, right? So he
Right.
was okay. His insurance did kick up, but he still was able to get the distribution.
Living benefits proceeds are a check made out to you from the life insurance company. It is not taxable. It is a completely tax-free check, and you can spend it however you want. You can, use it to kind of stick in the bank and help pay your normal bills while you're out of work. You can use it on experimental treatments. We've actually had clients use their living benefits proceeds on experimental treatments that are $200,000 a piece, and they're still alive today because directly of the living benefits money and them being able to get those experimental treatments. You can take it to Vegas and put it on Black 21 if that's what you want to do. Now we don't yes, we don't necessarily suggest you do that. But the point being is this is your money.
Sure.
You can spend it however you want. It's not it's not a reimbursement or anything like that. It's yours. It's tax free, and you can use it to put yourself in whatever position that you want to after unexpected illness.
I wanted to ask you, because I'm such a fan of the testimonials, where one would be able to find those testimonials online and possibly take a look at the videos that you mentioned.
Absolutely. So they're all over our website, alliancegrouplife.com. You can find them there. And Alliance Group agents also have their own personal web pages that they can be found, where they're all over Facebook. So make sure to check us out on Facebook. You can follow us. If you search for Alliance Group, you'll see our big A logo, and you can follow us, and we post all of our new testimonial videos, as well as we have, the marketing team creates a lot of animations, educational animations that'll, teach clients about things like living benefits, but also other concepts like, mortgage protection and tax-free retirement and things like that. So definitely follow us on Facebook at Alliance Group, and alliancegrouplife.com is our website.
And is there anything else you would want to tell anybody listening, saying, you know what, I do need that foundation piece in my life, or I need to protect myself from some of these things, maybe a next step?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Well, the thing is, we have a lot of folks. The main thing for people to understand is you have to do it now while you're healthy. You can't wait until you've already had a cancer diagnosis or a heart attack, because this is a life insurance policy. It's based on your current age and your current health. If you're not healthy enough to get it, you're not going to be able to get it. So it's something that you have to do proactively. If you're thinking that this is something that you are interested in, you got to pull the trigger now. You need to do it today. Don't put it off until next week, because it just won't get done. We know human nature. We know how people are with procrastinating. I know that I am a big procrastinator myself. But we actually did write a book. It's called Next Gen Protection. It's Living Benefits in the Future of Life Insurance. It's a very cool book. We worked really hard on it. Myself and Lee, who I mentioned earlier, our Executive Vice President and Chief Marketing Officer, actually wrote this together. It's a short read. It's all about living benefits. It's everything you need to know. We did build a really cool feature into it, where there's a companion app that's free to download. It's called Next Gen Protection as well. You can find it on your Apple or Google Play Store, whichever phone you use, and it's actually an augmented reality app. So as you go through the book and flip through the pages, there's little places where there's videos, and if you use the app and look at the book through your phone screen, those videos actually come to life and play right there on the pages of the book. So it's very, very cool. If you're interested, anyone who is listening to Business Radio X today, I would be happy to give you a free copy if you reach out to me personally. My phone number is 404-630-3502. Again, 404-630-3502. Feel free to text me or call me. I will give you your free copy of Next Gen Protection, and you can educate yourself on this awesome new kind of life insurance that everybody needs.
Well, Samuel Howe, thank you so much for joining us on North Georgia Business Radio. Thanks for your passion and the work you're doing to help people out there.
Thank you guys so much for having me. I really appreciate the opportunity, and it's been really fun. I'll be glad to come back anytime.
Yeah, Bo and I can't wait to read the book, because you're going to leave a copy with us, right?
Oh, absolutely.
It looks like an easy read.
Absolutely. It's a very quick read, designed that way on purpose.
It has pictures. I like it. All right, well, Amanda, let's talk. We have another guest. We go way back, and I could tell some stories that I probably won't today, but he is Hank Spinnler from Harmony Home Inspection Services, and he's been doing this since 2004.
Correct.
Is that right? Well, welcome to the show, Hank.
Thank you, Bo. Thank you, Amanda. Appreciate it.
Well, let's talk a little bit about home inspection. Same thing I asked Samuel a minute ago. Was that something at 5 years old, little Hank was running around and say, I want to be a home inspector, or was there a path to get there, and how did that come about? How did that come to be?
I think little Hank wanted to be on one of the Apollo missions. And I think this was a natural progression for me at some point because I spent a lot of years working with my dad in construction. So at some point, I looked to see how to leverage some of those skills I had learned over decades of working in construction in various phases. And I heard a little ad on the radio back around 2002 that suggested home inspections as a career. And at one point in time, we had an outfit that had a school using code-certified inspectors called the Georgia Institute of Home Inspectors. And I decided to take some night classes and go to school and actually got some certifications over time, and I just hung out my shingle and became a home inspector.
And it sounds like a lot of us, the experience came from doing 10 houses, 100 houses, and you just done it over time. Now, you brought up the certification. Is that something you have to do in Georgia, or is that something that is there you kind of get what you get and you hope you get something good when you ask for a home inspector?
True. It's like that Forrest Gump, proverbial box of chocolates. You really don't know what you're going to get because Georgia is not a licensed state for home inspectors.
Wait a minute, Hank. Back up. Your home inspector does not have to be licensed in order to perform that duty on your home.
That's correct, Amanda.
Yikes.
All you have to do is have a business license, which anyone can get, a flashlight, and a ladder, and you're in business.
Ooh.
So that's all it takes right now in this state. So the way to differentiate yourself is to try to get some meaningful certifications that have some backing and some merit.
Now, is there a difference in certifications and licensing and how that works? Are those the same thing, different things?
The differences in licensing would be from a state perspective,
okay,
which Georgia has not adopted at this time. Back in 2007, there was a House bill proposal that Sonny Perdue at the time shot down, and so there is no licensing in the state. So,
but you have to keep your credits relevant to hold your license, right? Like continuing education?
If you're part of an association, for example, a national association or a local home inspector association, there you have to have continuing education requirements.
Gotcha.
And you have to maintain those every year.
Mm-hmm.
Well, now you've scared us with what all could be out there. So for someone listening, and hey, maybe a purchase or a sale's coming up, how do we help ourselves, or how do we maybe find somebody that's legit, other than call you?
Right, other than calling Harmony.
But how do we? Are there some ways we can check on that and have some due diligence to find the right kind of person?
Qualify our inspector.
That is great. Realtors do a lot of that qualifying for their customers, and we tend to get a majority of our customers through referrals that are based from realtors or lenders. So what you want to do is do your own due diligence and compare sample reports, ask for their certifications. Are they a member of a national association or a local home inspector association? For example, the American Society of Home Inspectors or the Georgia Association of Home Inspectors are two associations that are well respected. You should check out, very importantly, their sample report, because you want to have a report that is clear and concise, that makes sense, that speaks in full sentences, rather than just little blurbs. Gibberish, yes. Run on, you want to have something that actually does not provide you with a lot of smoke and mirrors, fluff. You want actual, factual data, in black and white.
Well, something that as you're talking about this, is there a game out there? And I don't want to get anybody in trouble here, but is there a game out there of inspectors just kind of doing what the lenders want them to say and do? And if so, what's the problem there?
A monopoly.
Well, if there's any conflict of interest or something like that going on, I think a lot of those inspectors will quickly find themselves in trouble when facing a lawsuit potentially. Or they won't, if they get a lot of complaints and things like that, they may end up, not in jeopardy of losing their license, but just in not getting referrals and not being in business too long. So most inspectors know enough to be dangerous to be able to, just basically go through the motions and find enough things to convince somebody that they are competent. But that doesn't always mean the case, and there is a difference from inspector to inspector.
Very good. Well, one of the things I was thinking of too, Hank, was what's this? I know Do you have any idea? Could we say hundreds of houses? How many houses would you say you're in the what ballpark now?
Hundreds or thousands?
Maybe thousands.
Personally over 6,000 right now.
Wow. So that's another thing. As far as I was just thinking when people ask me about finding an advisor, I say one thing to check is how long they've been doing it. Because if they're out there not doing good things and bad things, they're not going to last in this business typically.
There you go. Mm-hmm.
So experience. So 6,000. Wow. So
That's a lot of experience.
that's a big yearly count. So what's some of the most common things or problems that you see out there? If you're like, if I had to list my top 3, 4, 5, what are the things that come up?
That's a great question. There's always a top 10, top 20 type list of anything that we can put together, but most of it in a whole, just the from a grand scale would be deferred maintenance and repairs. We're finding that no matter what the size home, or whether it's a starter home or a McMansion, that we're finding homes that the homeowners are not really aware of all the repairs and the maintenance type things that they have going on in their home. And no home is perfect. I've never inspected one. I don't think there will ever be one. If there's something small like a loose cover plate, I may tighten it up myself if I can get a perfect score on a house. But it goes down to a lot of folks not being aware that they have animal rodents or squirrels in their attic, or they have a leak at the water heater. A lot of people just don't go down into these places.
That pesky crawl space.
Yeah.
Oh.
You got it. It is pesky, and I'm always willing to offer my customers a price reduction in their fee if they'll go in there with me.
Oh my goodness. Well, that leads me to my next question, Hank. Tell me a story about one of the craziest things that you've encountered during your home inspections, whether it be in that tiny crawl space or an attic.
We have a few things that my wife said I couldn't mention, and they are kind of funny, but...
a petrified raccoon, maybe?
How about a family of raccoons?
Oh, my.
Yeah, one year I did go in an attic, and the homeowner came out, and he was really proud because he said that, hey, I took care of the squirrel problem. I put some screening up in the openings, and so we don't have any squirrel issues. The problem is he sealed up a mother and her babies in the attic. And when I shone my flashlight on them, of course, they were staring back at me.
Oh, my gosh.
A million eyes.
A million eyes. And I didn't know what to do at that point. I think I just
Froze?
Yeah, I think I froze on that point. But he created another problem with that. But I've had charred bats falling out of chimney flues.
Oh.
I've had live squirrels. I've rescued birds. In the crawl spaces, occasionally there'll be quite a few snake skins in there. So it often is a wildlife-related type thing that is one of those things that shock you. I've even been frightened by a toad one time in the early days.
Just leapt on you.
It just leapt at the wrong time, yeah.
Well, in the instance like the family of raccoons, when you have a rodent or a pest, are you expected to wrangle that yourself, or do you call in another set of professionals?
That's an extra fee.
Yeah, sure. We'll do whatever's needed. We're going to probably defer that to a licensed wildlife.
Yeah.
Capture
so that the animals can be released.
That's right. That's
nice.
right. Relocated.
Well, as you brought up when you're talking about things you find, Hank, I think a lot of people don't intentionally neglect things. A lot of people, it's unknown, right? There's unconscious of it, so to speak. Are there a few tips you could give people of maybe how to be a little more proactive, maybe find some of these common things so that it's not becoming worse issues? It might just be inspect your crawl space. I don't know, but you have a couple tips?
Sure. One is they can get periodic inspections, even if they live in the home. It's recommended that you every couple of years, get a home inspection just to look and see what is lurking, what type of issues that people, you live in a home, you tend to have your blinders on. You go to the same places, use the same appliances and things like that. But to have a fresh set of eyes, an objective pair of eyes in there for you. There are checklists. If someone wanted to email me, they could send me. You could send me an email, and I'll reply with a checklist of things that they could check. If they would like to do that.
That's
Absolutely.
Kind of you, yeah.
Well, go ahead and give that email, and then we'll get it again.
The easiest way is just to send an email to inspectorsATL, like ATL for Atlanta, at gmail.com.
Got it.
A checklist. And then let's talk about, so being a little more proactive and on top of things, let's talk about the benefits of that when it comes time to sell or when you're trying to do something different. Maybe you don't have as big of problems.
Good point. Pre-listing inspections are actually increasing in numbers. It used to be less than 1% of our business, and then over the last couple of years, it's gotten some more exposure, and more realtors are trying to be proactive with their sellers and trying to suggest that they get a pre-selling or pre-listing inspection. So that's one growing percentage of the market.
Because that just expedites the home sale inevitably.
Yes, it can eliminate some of those obstacles that may cause a deal to go south at the end.
Gotcha.
Well, Hank, I know we talked about North Georgia, serving North Georgia. Is there certain counties? Is there a real radius that you'd like to share with listeners that you really kind of concentrate on?
Sure, Bo. We do cover the greater metro Atlanta area, and I think it was comprised of somewhere around 22 counties, but if you include like where I live would be Barrow County, it might be 24, 25 counties that we actually will cover. We'll go all the way up to Lake Hartwell. We'll go south to Atlanta. We'll go east to Marietta. We'll go over to Covington, Monroe, those areas. So we do cover a pretty wide radius.
Yeah.
No, yep. Come up to Gainesville when we just bought this last house. Hank was there for me there. Came right in.
Absolutely.
Another question what would you say, and I'm making this phrase up, but what would you say is the Harmony advantage? The thing is, if I look up online and there's some different inspectors, why call Harmony?
Well, appreciate it, Bo. Well, we know Atlanta houses. We know the market. We can inspect anything from an A-frame to a log cabin, a brick ranch. It doesn't matter. We know we are experienced in the home inspection field. We're not learning on the job at this point. Our inspectors are trained personally by me. They also hold certifications as well. And I believe it's just the experience of being a smaller company versus a larger franchise or another company with a lot of inspectors.
And I imagine, Bo, you could probably attest. Hank strikes me as the type that'll give you the personal and individual attention once the inspection is complete and take the time to spend with you and maybe go over some of the action items.
And I can attest, too, to he's thorough. I tried to look at that book. I had to take a break and come back to it the next day with all the things he inspected. And like he said, no blurbs. There's full-on explanations.
Paragraphs.
He takes no shortcuts, I can tell you that.
If you ever have trouble getting to sleep, Bo, just take that report out, okay, and read it.
That's right. Well, so you offered the checklist. Anything else that you would like to say to listeners is just as far as a tip? Well, one thing before we even get to that, Hank, let's talk. When we talked about since 2004, and whenever we see that kind of longevity and starting and sustaining a business, I would just like to get your tip for success or key or big principle you've learned that you think has attributed to you being here today with us.
I appreciate that, Bo. Thanks. So this is just from a business perspective, right? Just in general, what makes the business a success. Mm-hmm. I think timing was one of those things. Just being in the market at the right time when I started the business. That book, Outliers by Malcolm Gladwell.
Right.
He talks about folks like Bill Gates and Steve Wozniak and Steve Jobs.
Right.
That those guys they were putting in the hours, putting in the time, developing these microprocessors, computers, and whatnot. And then the market when they built it, the market came to them. Mm-hmm. Well, I built my business around the time that the market was really, was building up before the crash, mm-hmm. and now it's building up again. So I think that longevity and that track record is something that over time that it's the referral, the word of mouth referral that you get mm-hmm. out of that. So that's part of the success.
Well, a little luck never hurts, but what about just it might be a principle. It might just be the key to success that you picked up. This can be more personal or business.
I think just being honest and straightforward with the clients, just looking them in the eye, knowing that they have a lot vested in this contract, and we really have to be sensitive to the fact that buying a home can be quite stressful. Mm-hmm. And we have to just be very adept at that and be able to give them sometimes unfavorable news in a way that doesn't devastate them, because unfortunately not every home is move-in ready as advertised.
And then they look at you as the bad guy because you delivered that news.
Yes, the messenger.
They want
That's
to
right.
shoot
So
messenger.
we try to deliver the bad news first, and then accentuate the good news later.
Yeah, I'm gonna get him a T-shirt. Don't shoot the messenger. How about that?
Good one.
I like that. Well, Hank, is there any other times that you would come into play other than when I'm buying a house or maybe that maintenance? Is there any other situations where you might come in the role of doing an inspection?
I think like we talked about on the selling side, and then there are other services that we would perform with my wife Karen and I. We both do some radon testing for folks that just want to know about the radon gas levels in their homes. They may ask for a targeted inspection of just, we get calls about, can you look at the deck or the screened-in porch my contractor just put on, just to make sure it's meets code and so forth.
I never thought of that. That's a great idea. So if you're having some sort of addition or repair or a project done, you could come in and you could inspect that as well.
Correct, yes.
Nice.
Well, somebody's listening there, Hank, and they have a need. They're about to buy a house, sell a house. Say, you know what, I think it's a good idea to do the maintenance, the check-in. Or they're interested in some of these additional services you've brought up today. What's the best way to learn more, get in touch with you, find out, what's next?
Well, appreciate it. There's a couple different ways they could call us directly at 770-235-5793, or they can go to our website at harmonyinspection.com. That's harmonyinspection with no S.com. Our email address is inspectorsatl@gmail.com.
Very good. Hank Spinnler with Harmony Home Inspection Services. Thanks for being with us today.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Samuel Howe with Alliance Group. Thanks for sharing your passion and the good information about living benefits.
Absolutely. Thank you guys again so much for having me.
Amanda Pierce. Had fun.
I had fun too. Hey, before we go, Bo, I want to remind all of our listeners to like our Facebook page. You can like us at NG Business Radio X, and we will post all kinds of fun things from the show today.
That's right. If you want to find out more, listen to the recording of this show, see some fun pictures of these guys, check us out there. And until next week, we'll be here, same time, same place, right here on North Georgia Business Radio.